All right, we're getting set for another Division III semifinal matchup here at University of Dayton Arena, the host site for the OHSA Boys State Basketball Championships. And again, we have Preble Shawnee getting set to take on Lutheran East and a chance to punch their ticket to the Division III championship game on Sunday. Coach George Howard with us, Scott Reese to my right, Justin Kinner with you here. We are off and rolling. Before we could dive into this matchup, though, we got to recap one heck of a Division III semifinal that just ended a little bit ago. Ottawa Glandorf fallen in a close one. This is why I leave it up to you two. My analysis of the home crowd coming in to save the day, that was not the case, Mr. Coach Howard.
Well, I think both of y'all picked Ottawa Glandorf.
I did.
It's okay because it was a good pick. And that's why I didn't pick, because I knew it was a toss-up. Even though Scott did say, it really is a toss-up.
It is. It was.
You did say that.
We at least
but that's why I didn't pick, because I knew I probably seen Harvest Prep more than he has. Yeah. So it probably I knew a little bit more about them. But they played exactly like there was a couple people down there, even Coach Dials from Ohio State. We were down there talking, and John Stovall, the Nike representative, and they asked me, they said, do they play like this all the time, or did they just have a great half?
Yeah, that's consistent to what I saw against Afrocentric.
Yes, but they play like that all the time. Yeah. They're very, very, very fundamentally sound, aggressive, tough team. And that's a David Dennis type of team. And I tell you what, Ohio Mr. Basketball did everything he could to get them this win and put them on his back. But he missed the shot that he'd been making all game. And I told him in the back, gave him a hug, and I told him, I said, listen, you don't have nothing to put your head down about. You've had a great season, a great career, and now it's time for you to focus on your next career.
Yeah, well, and I said earlier, and you're right, I thought it was an edge, not an advantage, and I thought the home crowd, but give it up to Harvest Prep for their defense, because I'm sure for Ottawa Glandorf, this was their poorest shooting performance of the year. I mean, they shot 44% from field goal, only 25% from three, and they took a lot of threes. And so they shot very, very well, and they also had 15 turnovers, 6 more than Harvest Prep had. And so it was very methodical. At the end of the first quarter, Harvest Prep was up 5. At the end of the second quarter, Harvest Prep was up 10. They were up 11. For me, it was a 7-minute game. And that 7 minutes started when Ottawa Glandorf was down 11 and Colin White got that big dunk. And I thought that was going to be a momentum changer. And from that, they got a layup and then a turnover and then fouled and went to the line and knocked down 2. So they scored 4 points within like 10 seconds. And then what I thought was really, really big, where I thought that that Harvest Prep was in trouble, was at the 4:25 mark. Harvest Prep was up 4, and Khalil Daniels fouled out and sent them to the line, who was their second leading scorer. But I'm going to tell you what, hats off not only to Colin White, who scored 32 points, which was about 54% of their production, but Adonis Abrams.
Thank you.
He put that team on his back, and when they needed a score, he got a score. But at the end of the day, you're down 2, and Mr. Basketball shooting a 3 to take to win it. Can't ask for better than that.
I don't think it was the 3 that he shot, though.
You thought it was
the
inside?
layup.
Yeah.
No, it was the
layup that he missed about the possession earlier.
That was the key.
Yes.
That was the game winner right there, was the layup that he missed. And he had a good look.
The possession before had a great look.
It just went off.
Yeah.
That's all. But, hey, listen, man. That Harvest Prep team, you talk about defense, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
They were balling.
Yeah.
They turned up that electricity on that defense. They played. They didn't take time off. They played. They had a small spurt that they let up, but that whole game they was coming at them. They was coming at them, and that's what caused them to have 17 turnovers.
Yeah.
Well, they did a good job, too, because when Colin White would start dribbling with that left hand, he would dribble left, going at the basket, but they anticipated every time when that defender would cut him off, he'd spin into the middle. I think Colin had 2 or 3 turnovers where it could have been Abrams or whoever. They'd come up through the middle, and they'd anticipated that spin move into the paint. They anticipated that. You could tell they did their scouting report on him. They forced him where they wanted to go, anticipating that type of move. You brought up Abrams. I mean, that kid, I feel bad. I love Colin White. Mr. Basketball, he deserved all the coverage in the last pregame show, but Abrams deserves to be talked about quite a lot right now because it's not about who outplayed who. It's just about the star player putting his team on his back.
For both.
He got steals, he hit threes, fadeaway jumpers, layups in transition. He did absolutely everything. As much as we
each
talk
one
about,
was when you had to have it.
Yes, because there was a few times where they cut it to within 5, and you felt like they were about to cut it to within a possession, maybe tie it, take the lead, and Abrams stepped up. It wasn't just that he scored; it's when he scored.
Yes.
Hats off to Abrams. I'm a huge fan. That kid is unbelievable.
I mean, with
Stuff
3
you know
minutes,
already.
with 3 minutes and 47 seconds left, it was a two-point game. They had erased 11 points. A lot of teams would crumble in that situation.
Yep.
And it was Adonis Abrams that held them even to that point. Every big shot, because they were not making their free throws. They only shot 33% from the line. That is how Ottawa Glandorf, despite their poor shooting, stayed close.
But not only that, but they tied the game up.
Yes, yes.
And Harvest Prep did not stop.
Yeah.
They kept coming back with confidence.
Yeah, hats off.
I mean, they came back, they scored, they went to the bucket, they pulled up, and and OG would come down, they would shoot and score, and it was like, okay, well, that's okay. Yeah. We still know we're good enough to win this game.
Yeah, and here's something that tells you a lot of the confidence that Coach Dennis has in Adonis to run the team and the team to execute. It wasn't like they called a bunch of timeouts. That we're in trouble, let me call a timeout. No, he let the ball be in his best player's hands because he knew the player would orchestrate like a coach on the field.
Yeah, and again, you're very familiar with Harvest Prep, and just talk about Adonis real quick, too. I mean, what's the future look like for him? What schools are looking at him? I mean, his future, all he cares about is what's coming up on Sunday, but what's big picture looking like for him?
I'm really not sure what schools are looking at him right now.
We couldn't find anything. We were looking.
That out, but I'm sure that there's been a lot of coaches that watch this game.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm sure that he'll have a lot more interest. But I would say probably right now he's a D2 player, and there's probably
and he'd be a good one. He'd be a really good one.
Yeah. Be several D2 schools that are really looking at him. And I'm sure that during the course of next week, as I'll talk to a lot of coaches leaving here, they'll talk about him as well.
Well, again, the winner of the first Division III semifinal matchup, Harvest Prep 61, Ottawa Glandorf 59, in a game that at many times felt as if Harvest Prep was about to pull away in a rout. Give Ottawa Glandorf credit. They fought to the end. They had multiple chances. Look, they shouldn't feel they missed a lot of shots with opportunities to tie it, cut it to within a possession, take a lead. They had multiple opportunities down the stretch to win the game at the buzzer, so they did everything they could. They just couldn't execute down the stretch, so congratulations to Harvest Prep.
Great season.
Who got all the extra balls? Harvest Prep.
Yeah.
They were all over the place.
Yep.
I mean, they were
sped them up.
They were blocking shots, jumping on the floor, going after
and just
the ball.
withstood the furious comeback.
Yes, they did.
And not every team can do that.
Against a really good OG team.
Yes, very well coached and a great player.
Well, now, just like the rest of us, you're going to see Harvest Prep sit off to the side and anticipate and wait who they're going to take on Sunday in the Division III championship game. And while there's only one of two options as we get set, Preble kind of getting set to take on, of course, Lutheran East. As we sit here right now heading into this matchup, we talked about Division III. 3 of the 4 teams, no stranger to the state championship scene, but that's not the case for, of course, when you look at this Preble Shawnee first ever state semifinal appearance. And, well, they have a powerhouse in Lutheran East that they have to go up against the defending D3 champions.
Hey, I'll tell you what. I'm going to tell you about Lutheran East. I've seen them 3 or 4 times this year. And they're battle-tested. They played one great non-conference schedule, and they all beat up on each other down there in Cleveland. You know, they played St. Ignatius. They played Richmond. They played Garfield Heights. They played in our play-by-play. So they all beat up on each other, and it's just great competition. But when you talk about Lutheran East, they've been here before. It's not nothing new to them. They've got a guy that could have been Mr. Basketball. And Jesse is a 6'11" kid that's going to Michigan State, and he can play. He's totally changed his game from last year. He's gotten better. He's worked hard in the offseason. And they start 2 freshmen that are really, really good. And look for them to me, in my opinion, I'll let you know at the end.
Yeah.
The team who scores the most points is going to win this
one more
right?
than the other team. And this game feels a lot like the second game this morning. That it seemed like the second game was going to be more of a runaway. You thought, it may even be a running clock. And it was a 2-point game. So you're right. They're incredibly talented. And if McCullough's going to Michigan State, you know he's tough because Tom Izzo only recruits tough kids. That's how Michigan State plays. But I tell you what, Preble Shawnee has a really tough kid too, and that is Mason Stroud.
Yes.
And he's 6'5", he's a senior. He has scored over 2,000 points. He holds the school record for rebounds, the school record for assists, the school record for single game, and career points. And so, and he has a supporting cast. No one else on his team averages more than 10, 11 points. There's a bunch of the other starters are 7, 8, 9. So it's an even supporting cast. There's not a second guy that he really depends on. So the key matchup for me is their big guy, Shawnee's big guy, Logan Hawley, 6'8", big tough guy, against Jesse McCullum. Now, Jesse McCullum, he scores quite a bit more than anyone else on his team. Coach Howard said that they started a couple of freshmen. No one else scores more than 6, 7, 8 points, which to me says they're not shooting a lot of threes. It would not shock me to see Shawnee maybe back into some zone sometime, double down on McCullum, test a three that they probably don't make a lot, and they like transition, the coach says. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if they can keep it close.
That's why I was letting you talk about Pepper Shawnee.
Yeah.
I love Mason Stroud. I've been knowing him for a while, and he never stops. Mm-hmm. He's like the ever-ready battery.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, he never, ever stops. And he goes hard. He's going to get to the bucket. He's going to pull up and shoot the three, pull up and shoot the mid-range. I love him. But I'm going to tell you this. Luther East is scrappy. They go hard at you.
Yeah.
They come at you. And if Pebble Shawnee is not ready for that, it could be over early.
Yeah. Well, they're the defending state champs for a reason. They're coming back to go back-to-back. And we have a rematch, potentially, if Lutheran East wins, of the 2019 state championship game between Harvest Prep and Lutheran East, which Harvest Prep won. So we'll see what happens.
Again, we got Division III semifinal action coming up. Preble Shawnee, Lutheran East coming up. 8:30, the tip-off here from the University of Dayton Arena. And again, we already saw one semifinal earlier today, again, with Harvest Prep coming away. See, I keep with that light. It's blinding me, so I can't even see my paper. That's why I kind of keep putting it up to my face.
Well,
if you're wondering what's going on there.
I'm kind of glad it is bothering me, because that way, when I look over that way, I ain't got to look at the guy that's running everything.
I don't see.
So that way, I got the light in front of me, so when I look over there to the producer, I ain't got to look at him.
Yeah.
So it helps me out quite a bit.
I had all these great notes, and I'm staring at that light, and I'm like, I can't see a thing. No, nonetheless. So when you got Preble Shawnee right now, this is our first trip to the state semifinals, first trip to the state tournament. You know, at times I'm sure it could be dangerous where you maybe play out a character where you try to play to who you're playing instead of playing to what your strengths are.
Yeah.
When we talk about keys to the game, especially for Preble Shawnee right now, as they try to battle through their nerves of their first time being at this level, how much of a role do you think that's going to have on how they start this matchup? And we'll start with you.
If you think about the movie Hoosiers, when they got into the gym at Butler, and he had them measure the tape, measure the basket, measure the free throw. He says the same measurements in our gym. It's the same basketball. Do what we do. Play defense, play offense. I think for them, they cannot let Lutheran East get out to a quick start, or it may be over early. I think they need easy baskets. They like to get out in transition. They need to get a couple. They need to get to the free throw line. That calms your nerves. And if they can penetrate, kick out for some threes, make some, then who knows? But they're going to need to have some easy baskets to stay in it and gain their confidence and composure against the battle-tested team.
Well, I agree with Scott. They can't let Lutheran East get out and start doing what they do.
Yeah.
Because if you allow them to start doing what they do, you're in for a long night. But on the same hand, Lutheran East is going to have to stop Pebble Shawnee, because Pebble Shawnee can play too, and they're going to come at you as well.
Yeah.
I just think that, if I'm coaching Pebble Shawnee, I'm going to probably tell my guys, hey, we've got to buckle it up, put our hard hats on, and let's go out there and let's just go at them and make them play our style of basketball.
Don't back down.
Don't play theirs.
Don't back down.
Play our style of basketball.
That's right. You're right.
As we get set for this second Division III semifinal, I wanted to take a moment. I know it's been talked about throughout the afternoon on a couple of the other pregame tip-off coverage shows here on the OHSA social media networks, but the end of an era, as we wrap up Division III here tonight. We'll have two more, divisions to get through tomorrow, but can't help but continuously, remember the fact that, man, this is the state tournament that I remember, whether it's in Columbus, whether it's here in Dayton, the Final Four format, the setup. If you punch your ticket to the state tournament, you're going to the host site, UD Arena. You're going to play your semifinal game here. You don't like moral victories. You don't want it to be, well, at least we got there. But there was something said to get to the Schottenstein Center, to get to UD Arena. The end of an era, the format change, of course, the expansion of divisions. This is the last year of 4 divisions in the OHSAA Boys and Girls State Basketball Tournament. 7 divisions next year, but as we take this all in, I just have to keep reminding myself, man, this is the last time we're going to experience that here this weekend.
Yeah, it's the Final Four. So
Final Four, I like that.
It's a little bit nostalgic. I'll tell you, the main priority was Division I, and it was like that in football. And when you look at the smallest Division I teams, they were less than half the size of the larger ones. And so to make it a little bit fair so that schools could compete against other schools of their same size, they shrunk it down. 64 teams in the Division I, 64 teams. We'll have 60 teams. 60 teams next year that are D1 this year that will be D3 next year. And so it'll be exciting. I know I talked to some of my friends in the Columbus City League. They are really excited because they feel that they're going to be competing against schools that are not double their size. And so, we did it in football, and the world didn't end, and no one said, oh, well, it's a watered-down state championship. Everyone's excited, whether it's D6, D7, D5. And it's a different format. It'll bring excitement to the state semifinals around the state and make this a big deal here for the championships. I don't know, George, what's your thing?
I want to ask you a question because you are with Ocean.
Yeah.
You kind of know a little bit more. And I've talked to Doug. We talked about it. So even though it's going to be 7 divisions, are we going to take away the sectionals because you're not going to have as many teams?
Yeah.
So did you go from straight into the regionals or straight into the district and then to the regionals and then here?
I tell you what, you have a group of people, and they're going to now elicit the basketball liaisons, and I'm the basketball liaison for the Central District, to kind of answer those very questions. D1 and D2 are only going to have 64 teams, kind of like an NCAA tournament, 64. They're going to have less games. The others will be less affected. D3 through 7 will be less affected. They probably will end up having a similar format. But what happens with D1 and D2? Do they start at a district level? Is it a region-wide like football? I think we are leaning towards district, but what does that look like? But we have not landed on a secure format yet.
That's interesting. And a lot of coaches that I talk to, they don't like it. Some like it, like he said. The smaller schools like it. The bigger schools don't really like it. Some people don't even care, because it's not going to affect them either way. You know what I mean? I liked it. When I first heard about it, I liked it. I brought Doug Oot onto my show. Did you see that show?
Yes, sir. Yep.
And we talked about that. And it was a really good show. And I like it for the simple facts. For the small guys, it gives them an opportunity. You know what I mean? It gives them an opportunity to say, hey, I've got a chance. We can go and start our season November 1st, first day of practice. Hey, we've got a chance to win the state. Whereas though before you knew in your mind, and your kids knew that you weren't going to get there because you weren't going to be able to beat those bigger teams. Different story now. So it's going to make it interesting. And I told somebody the other day, hey, 6 and 7, 5, 6 and 7 are going to be good. You watch.
Well, I tell you something else that's coming before the principals to vote on this spring, a referendum item that will allow you to select to move up to D1. So Richmond Heights thought last year they were the best team all together. If that referendum passed, they can prove that.
No. Oh, they move up.
Yeah, there's a referendum for principals to vote on coming up this spring that if it passes, a team could select to move to D1, no matter what their division.
But you know what, though?
And the younger...
I don't think that's a good idea, Scott.
Well, no, I don't think anybody's going to do it.
If you do that, it's going to open up a can of worms. And
well, who's going to do it? Who's going to do that?
Move up to D1?
Yeah. Who's going to do that? Because if you do that, you're saying, I'm going to win a state championship
but
there.
Can you just move up to D1, or can you move up from
just
3
D1.
to 2?
Just D1. Currently,
Richmond's
just
not
D1.
going to do it. I'm going to tell
They
you
said they would.
No.
Last year, they said they would.
I don't care. Watch this.
And I'm with you. I don't think they would either.
No, they're not. But I'm going to tell you why. Because Dorian Jones and those guys, they're gone.
Yeah.
Next year's their last year.
Yeah.
And then after that, who you got?
Yeah.
You're starting from zero.
I'm with you. I don't think anyone will do it.
So they're going to come up there. They're independent now.
Yeah.
They're going to come up there. No, I don't think so.
I don't think. I think very few, if any, will do it. I'm with you.
It's not smart.
I'm with you on that.
It's not smart.
I'm with you on that.
So we can talk about how this impacts the teams and the preparation to be a championship team heading in. But from a fan perspective, there's a lot of just basketball fans in the city of Dayton, in the state of Ohio, that circle this event on their calendar every year. It changes that drastically because now you have 7. So a year from now at this time, we'll be crowning 7 state champions here, semifinals. Are they a week before? Are they the same week? Are they at a different venue?
In the week leading up to. So it'll be midweek likely.
That's a good question.
It'll probably be midweek.
Because you have 7. It's an odd amount of teams.
Because now we did this in 3 days. Yeah. 4 divisions.
This will be 2. Because you can do it like football. You can do 3 games on Friday, 4 games on Saturday.
But you can't have, you're talking about as far as state championships.
Yes, only the state championships will be here.
So what about the regionals? They'll be all over the place.
Yes, and the state semifinals.
Final fours will be all over the place.
So will regionals be treated like a state championship weekend where you just have one venue for all regional? And you can make a second a big event.
Because it's regional, you may have more interest because people be like Lutheran East. How many fans would go to Akron or Kent State that can't come all the way to Dayton?
Yes.
And it was put this way, and I never thought about it this way. Even though there's more divisions, there aren't more games, but there are more important games. There are more regional games. There are more state semifinals. There are more district finals. So there's more important games. Boy, that's got to be exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of exciting, we have our second Division III semifinal matchup coming up here on the OHSA Radio Network. We'll be sending it courtside to our OHSA Radio Network coming up here in just a few moments as, again, Preble Shawnee in their first state semifinal appearance getting set to take on Lutheran East, who is no stranger to this scene. As we wrap things up before we send it back to the Radio Network, we'll start with you with Lutheran East. Our players to watch, I think we've highlighted one already, but for Lutheran East, I don't think it's a secret who that star player is that we're going to be keeping an eye and an ear out for here tonight.
You want to watch 6'11" Justin McCullough. He's going to be hard to handle down there. I don't think nobody Preble Shawnee has can stop him down in the paint. He rebounds the ball, he blocks shots, and he scores at ease. And I think that Lutheran East will win this game and advance to the state championship against Harvest Prep.
So that's our star player to watch for Lutheran East. But while Preble tries to figure out, Shawnee tries to figure out how they're going to stop him, for Lutheran East, who are they right now really zeroing in on? Again, another player we've touched on already here in this pregame, but just to wrap things up.
Mason Stroud.
You
know, he's their big scorer, by far, their big scorer. And I'm with George. I'm leaning towards Lutheran East. I don't think there's anyone. McCullough finished the runner-up for Mr. Basketball. So you're right, he's right there. I think they have no choice but to double down because if he gets it in the paint, it's 2 points or an and one. And so, you know, they just got to do some things defensively, try to get some easy baskets, but those are the 2 big guys you want to watch.
Question for you real quick.
Yeah.
When are the final division breakdowns going to come out?
So every year, every school district and every school has to give their official numbers to the Ohio Department of Education, now the Department of Education and Workforce. Those numbers have been submitted. Those numbers then come back to the school to verify. Then OHSAA gets those numbers, and from that, then they'll say in grades 10 through 12, because we don't count 9th grade, in grades 10 through 12, who are the top 64 boys, next 64 for D1, and so forth. So that'll happen May-ish. You'll know the divisions officially in May.
All right, let's get it.
Let's get it is right. Harvest Prep took the first Division III semifinal, beating Ottawa Glandorf earlier this evening, and now they sit back and wait to take on the winner of our next Division III semifinal, Lutheran East and Preble Shawnee, coming up next. We appreciate you tuning in. For Scott Reese and, of course, Coach Howard, Justin Kidder with you here. We thank you for tuning in and hanging out with us. We now send it courtside to our OHSA radio network as they get you set for our second Division III semifinal right here from the University of Dayton Arena.